there's a lot of work to be done in the vineyard. We just got to get it done. We got to get it done. Grapes will rot in the vineyard if you don't take them off the vine. But you need workers to do it. So let us begin to work for the Lord. I know we're about in the middle of the year here, but we can still work. It's not over. It's a lot of work to be done. We had a goal of having baptizing one person this year. We had 0 last year, so we said 1. So we met the 50% goal, and guess what? We had 2. So we're at 100%. We just keep going up. So it's half of the year is over, so we have a lot of work to do. I want to thank the brothers for their participation so far in the service. God bless them. And Jeff was leading us in song. I want to just appreciate him, and always for Brother Junior, Russian Junior, for opening us, getting us prepared, getting us ready. And I really appreciate that, and him for our minister here, our second minister here, James, always opening up, giving us our daily bread here with the Lord. Commune with him. See, what we're doing here is having a spiritual communion. But the Lord says when we get to see him, it's going to be a physical one, because we're going to get to see him. We're going to get to touch him. We're going to get to talk to him. So let's do it right here, because we just prepared to go home. Listen, you can't always get what you want. I know that's new to you. But you can't always get what you want. And I'm so glad, because some things you shouldn't have. You can't always get what you want. But I got a question for you this morning. And I want to see if we can answer that. But I want you to think about it too. I want you to think about this question right here. How far will you go to get what you want? How far will you go? Think about it. In your mind, probably right now, you probably thinking about something you want. All of us, I don't care who you are, how much education you got, how old or young you are, or how poor or rich you are right here. You know what? Everybody in here wants something. I don't know what it is, but you want something. But I don't know how far you'll go to get it. Now, I don't know what you want might be something you shouldn't have. But I don't know how far you go to get that. And sometimes, if I could read your brain like God, it might be scary. The length you might go to get something that you don't want, you shouldn't have. Or what you might do to try to get it. But we all want something. But how far would you go to get it? Matthew 13, 44 through 46. Now you might want me to hurry up, but I know what I want too. Is I'm going to take my time. Yeah. Says the kingdom of heaven. Oh, I better stay still. So the brother, he said, you move too much. I got to do it then. I can't stay in one spot. So the kingdom of heaven is like treasure hidden in the field. Listen to this now. And when a man found it, you know what he did? He hid it again. See, when you're out there panning for gold and you get that big gold nugget in your hand, the last thing you're going to want to do is say, I found it, the mother lode. What's going to happen? There you go. Homeboy hit it. And he says, okay, he hit it again. Then in his joy, went and sold all he had, and he bought that field. Because, you see, it might belong to somebody else. And they say, you found that gold is mine, and rightfully it will be theirs. But he's smart. He went and bought the land. Why? Because it was worthy to him to sell all he had. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a merchant looking for fine pearls. And when he found one of great value, he went and he sold everything and he bought it. Now, it wasn't looking in the ground or finding some shell, a pearl in an oyster shell. That's not what he was doing. It was in a store or something. Why? Because he's a merchant. He buys merchandise. And he's looking at it. And he found it after searching. That's the pearl. That's the one he wants. And when he found one of great value, that one he was looking for, he went away and he sold everything and came back to the store and he bought it. Why? So nobody else would get it. See, that's like when you're married now, but maybe you dated around a little bit. Maybe you dated around and the person might have been nice company. You see, the person might have nice communication and all, but they just wasn't the one for you. They just wasn't the one for you. But when you found that pearl that you wanted, you went and you took that little girl home. But you got to find you a pearl of great value, Brother Thomas. Because, see, you don't want to go marry some girl or some guy like a car on the lot. What you mean, Brother Woods? See, you want one of great value. Well, what you mean, Brother Woods? Because when you take that car off the lot, it loses what? Value. Get you someone of value. These men were ready to give away everything because they found something of value and they wanted to hang on to it. But guess what? How far will you go to get what you want? These men say everything. Because they weren't buying junk. They were buying something of value. But how far will you go to get what you want? Ask yourself that. How far? And what I'm saying is, what will you do to get what you want? And how far will you go to get it? We're going to look at some men today, but I want you to look at yourself. How far will you go to get what you want? Will you sell everything you have? Will you give up everything you have for that very thing that you find of value that you can't live without? And give it up. Now, about right now, I'm hoping you're thinking about heaven. Right now, I'm hoping you're thinking about the Lord. But there's some other things in life I know that you won't. But I want to know what you'll do and how far you go to get it. Here's what Paul had to say in Philippians chapter 3 and verse number 8 about how far he'll go. He says, what is more, I consider a loss because of the surpassing, he said, worth of knowing Jesus Christ. He says, everything I had was a loss because I wanted to know Jesus Christ. And I'm willing to give it all up just to know Jesus Christ. For whose sake I've lost all things. He's not talking about he can't find what he's looking for. He's not talking about someone took his things that he lost it. No, he says, I gave it up. Some of us don't want to give up nothing for the Lord. Your money. There's probably some money that you still in your pocket that should have been in this plate. Some time that you should have gave the Lord that you kept for yourself. The TV got more of your time than the Bible did. How much are you willing to give to the Lord? He said, look, I lost all things. I consider them garbage that I may gain Christ. He says, listen, I had a lot. He says, Paul says, look, I was a Pharisee. I was the Jew of Jews. I was from the tribe of Benjamin. I gave it all because, see, this value of knowing Jesus Christ is like that great pearl. And I'm willing to give up everything because the stuff I got compared to that ain't nothing but junk. Nothing but junk. That's why you are here. That's why you gave yourself to Christ. Because the stuff you had compared to knowing Christ and having a relationship with Christ was nothing but junk. So I'm wondering sometimes why we still like to go back to that junk. See, there are members who left here for junk. I don't need to tell you who they are, right? Because God knows who they are. And the worst thing about it is when you don't understand the value of having a relationship with Christ, then you don't sell everything for it because you don't know the prize you got in your hand. Some of us like members who go to these yard sales or the person who has a yard sale and they got a little old painting there in the corner they selling for $5. But your trained eye know that it's not just a little painting. It's a hidden Rembrandt or something like that. And you walk out with that little $5 painting skipping on down the sidewalk, right on down to the auction of somebody, and you get you $5 million. Why? Because you don't know the value of what you have. Do you know the value of what you have? That you got to keep running back to get the junk? See, a lot of us got that junk out there in them sheds. I'm one of them. You can't eat. You don't even know when the last time you put the stuff at. You don't even know when the last time you used it. But guess what? You might have a lock on it. Mine does. You might have a chain on it, alarm system, and a bulldog tied to it. Because you don't want to give up none of that stuff. And you're mad if somebody steal it. But what about giving up for Jesus Christ? The junk in our hearts. We got to empty that stuff, man. You're ready to give up everything. It's nothing but junk. Nothing but junk. Junk, junk, junk. What's happening? Okay. Addictions. Anybody an addict this morning? Oh, how many of y'all can't start your day without your cup of coffee? Your Folgers in your cup. You an addict. I remember one time I used to drink soda. It's been about 13 years I haven't drank a soda. But brother Bell, I used to be an addict. I used to be an addict for Pepsi. And then I changed over to Coke. And then one time, man, I wanted me a Coke so bad, I wanted me a soda. I lived just a walk away from the store, and it was about like 12 or 1 at night. And man, I had to go get me something. I've got me one of them quarts, and I'm going to drink the whole thing up, boy. Because, we want stuff. But there are addictions out there that people are suffering from. Yeah, people who are deep in the throes of substance abuse will do almost anything to get another fix. See, that's why I want you to be addicted to Christ. See, because when it's time to come on Sunday, you need to come and get you another dose. See, I want it when you missing it and Wednesday come, you ready to get another shot. You see? And then Sunday, you sure enough going to get the whole dose. But there's some people who would do almost anything. And I know sometimes we joke about, man, don't leave that on that hood and go in the house. Some old crackhead may come and steal it. We make crackhead jokes. But you know what? They're suffering inside. Because they do anything to get a fix. These are some stories about people, some testimonies about people who needed a fix. They said, I stole jewelry from my friend's mom's house to pawn for dope money. And once I waited 3 hours outside in the blizzard for a dealer. Is that how much you love the Lord? It's raining outside. I don't think I'm going to come to church. You got a roof on your car. They sell umbrellas. They sell rain suits. You can still run a little bit to get to the door. It ain't that far. But what will you do? See, the addiction don't hurt us enough. See, there's no withdrawals. Got to have some withdrawals that you need another fix. Get here. I used to trade sexual favors for a fix. Now, not me now. I'm just talking. I'm reading these. I'm just reading these things. That's what I'm doing. These are testimonies. I used to trade sexual favors for a fix. Go to parties specifically, search the house for pills, searching. I cleaned up all that mist stuff. My stuff in there ain't right. It didn't take. like the S on searching supposed to be capital and stuff. So I know how to write and spell. I got a minor in English. I used to trade sexual favors for fix. Go to parties specifically to search for their houses for pills. Searching anybody's house I was in for pills. And guess what? Stealing my grandma pills that she needed for pain. Now, you showing up bad. You don't care if your grandma sit there in pain. You taking her pills. I was once pooping and dropped a few pills into the toilet. I picked them out of the poopy water and ate them immediately before they dissolved too much. That's an addiction. See, we're talking about how far will you go to get what you want. That's pretty far right there. That's pretty far. But this is even farther. Some will go as far as murder and even to the point of parricide, one who kills their own parent. Now that's pretty bad. How far will you go to get what you want? Well, this guy, actually his wife did. We're talking about Naboth and his vineyard. All right. This in 1 Kings 21, this poor fella, this king here, Ahab, one of the more wicked kings in the Bible. Okay, king of Israel, king of Samaria. He wanted this vineyard. Now, he started out right. He was going to try to do the right thing. But when you got one of them old women who call your wife, let me just stop right. We get to her. Y'all know who she is. King Ahab wanted to purchase the vineyard belonging to Naboth the Jezreelite. He wanted to purchase it fair and legal. Now, understand, this is a king. He could do whatever he wanted. He could have just took it. And that would just been the end of that. But he wanted it to be fair and legal. So guess what he does? He says, okay, he goes to him and he says, come on, man. Let me have your vineyard to use for a vegetable garden. He wants to tear that vineyard down. Why? Because he says it's close to my palace. In exchange, I will give you a better vineyard. Or if you prefer, I will pay you whatever it is worth. There's nothing wrong about that. That's great. I like to have this. I want to make me a vegetable garden. I'm trying to eat right. Some vegetables right next to my house. The proximity is great. And look, guess what? I'll give you a better vineyard. Or you just name the price and I'll buy it from you. Nothing wrong with that. But Naboth declined both offers because it was ancestral property that he inherited. And there's nothing wrong with that. Ahab is distraught because he can't get what he wants. He goes to home, he lays across the bed, and he is refusing to eat food, and he's sulking like a little child. Yeah. This king, who has everything, is pouting. And then comes her, Jezebel. She comes into the room, find her dear king laying across the bed, and she comes in and says, what? You laying across here? What's wrong with you? Now, he probably know his wife. Because, see, if I went out, first I would probably tell him, I'm going to see if I can get that piece of land over there. And I go over to the man, he won't sell it to me. I'm going to come back and tell her, well, he won't sell it, but that's okay. God will provide. He didn't go back and tell her what happened because he probably know his wife. He went to bed sulking. Here she come in. What's wrong with you? You acting like something wrong with you. You don't want to eat. You're sick. You need a bowel movement. You know, because that's what they tell you. Everything wrong with you. The mama say you get your bowel movement. You know, and he tells her the story, and she going like, "Are you crazy? Are you a man or what? You're the king. Go take it. Go get it." And he said, "I'm wicked, but I ain't that wicked." So he goes on to sulking. She goes, "Okay, that's all right. I'll handle this situation. I'll deal with this situation." So what she does is she sends letters in Naboth's name to elders and nobles of the city, asking them to proclaim a fast. During the fast, she has Naboth seated in the high honor among the people. But she does something else. She hired some scoundrels to sit right there when he's with these elders, and they start lying on the man to bear witness against him, saying he has blasphemed against God and the king. Now it's funny that she does not worship God, but she's going to throw his name in the mix. Okay? And of course, any ill wills or any ill words spoken against God and the king will be punishable by death. Punishable by death. Unfortunately for innocent Naboth, that is exactly what happened. When the people heard these, false accusations, they took him out of the city and they stoned him to death. Now I'm getting older in my age, and you know what? That almost made me cry. Because I said, this poor man trying to live his life right, got him a nice vineyard. He probably want to get them grapes and make a little wine and what else, and sell some and eat them. And he gets murdered because somebody wants what he has. And I said, and somewhere I wish and I pray to God that this poor man get justice someday, because he lost his life behind some foolishness. So are you willing to scheme? Are you willing to lie? Are you willing to murder to get what you want? See, that's your question. I don't want to murder. I don't want to murder nobody. I won't go to that street. The Bible says if you hate your brother, you commit murder. See, are you willing to scheme? See, like I just said when I started out, there are things you want. I don't know what you want. But are you willing to make backdoor deals that the government don't want, the IRS don't want you to be doing, to get what you want? We had COVID, and people were getting them, PP loan, or PPP loan, whatever. Some rich people getting them. And they go to those measures to lie, steal, scheme, to get what they want. And money is a big motivator to get you to do almost anything. You will change gods to get money. You will kill to get money. You'll leave your spouse to get money. You will put a placard on your baby and say, sell $5. You don't believe it? It's in the books of history. When they were going through the Depression, there were people who were selling their children, put a placard on them for the amount that they wanted to sell them for. You do almost anything, but are you willing to scheme, lie, and murder to get what you want? That's you. Think about it, will you? Here's another person. King David. A man after God's own heart. That's what it said. After God's own heart. But he was willing to do some scheming too. It says that in Acts 13 and verse number 22, the Bible tells us that after removing Saul, he made David king. This is God making David king. God testified concerning him. I found David, son of Jesse, a man after my own heart. He will do everything I want him to do. But yet David would go to extreme measures to do what? To get what he wanted. You know why? Because he's just a man, a human, just like you and I. There are things you want, but how far will you go to get them? Are you married to somebody you shouldn't have, but you wouldn't listen to nobody? Or people you've been married to, but you wouldn't listen to nobody? And in one part of the recesses of your brain, you knew you weren't supposed to have that person, but you went to extreme measures to get them, contrary to advice that you probably knew was true. See, everybody has to pay the consequences for their actions. But how much and how far will you go to get to heaven? It says in 2 Samuel chapter 11, verses 1 through 5. One evening, David got up from his bed. See, he's supposed to be going to war. It says in the springtime, see, because that's when the roads are not muddied and the winter is gone. And you know, they had knives and swords that would be stuck in their sheath when it was cold. So they had to wait. And the other enemy decided they wanted to do the same thing. It was an agreement. Okay, I'll see you in the spring. We'll fight in the spring. So that time came and says, David sent the captain of his host, Joab, out instead of him going with them. And they did take the Ark of the Covenant with them. But it says, so he's back home. And this tells you about idle hands. You should be working for the Lord. Like the song says, I want to be a worker for the Lord. It says one evening, and he's sleeping late, David got up from his bed and walked around on the roof of the palace. From the roof, he saw a woman bathing. The woman was very beautiful. And David sent someone to find out about her. The wrong thing. See, when you mess with fire, you're subject to get burned. But see, if you never played around with it, there's no chance to get burned. So he sent, who is that? Who is that woman walking on the roof? The man says she is Bathsheba, the daughter of Eliam and the wife of Uriah the Hittite. He know Uriah. That's one of his men of valor. So, oh, I know him. Oh, he had that fight in the war. He away from home. Yeah, okay. Then David sent messengers to get her. And see, you make other people complicit to what you're doing now. And she came to him, and he slept with her. Now, see, the king usually gets what he wants. But she didn't have to do that either. So in reality, and I'm going to say it, you're looking at two dogs. Because David's married. She's married. And he knows that man is out there fighting. He's a dog. To do that to that man, and he's out there trying to protect the country. Yeah, I said it. I'm saying it on Facebook. You know how to reach me. Okay? But I'm going to still say it. Yeah, then I might say he's a sleazy dog for what he did. You know why I know he's a dog? Because what he did wasn't right. And God didn't like it. And then he slept with her. And it says now, then David sent messengers to get her. She came and slept with her. Now she was purifying herself from a monthly uncleanness. And then she went back home, and guess what? Oops! The woman got pregnant. Now you know what's the time for? What's we's gonna do? See, that's what we's gonna do time now. Why? Because see, like Jezebel, David got to go into scheme mode now. Because he know how to do math. Okay, let's see now. When Uriah left for the war, it was 15 months ago, and he ain't been home in 15 months. It takes a woman about 9 months. Oh, Lord. He going to come back home for a visit and say, well, you wasn't pregnant when I left you. What happened? It ain't no tumor. Who did it? See, there's going to be some investigating going on. And David knows, I'm in trouble. See, he's not just saving himself and Bathsheba from shame. They broke the law, and he was literally trying to save their life. Why? Because what they did was doggish. Why? Because they deserved to be killed for this. Because Exodus 20:14 says, you shall not commit adultery. It didn't say, go ahead and, get your little bit and be over with. No, you shall not do it. That ain't what it said. You shall not. And if you do, he says, if a man commits adultery with another man's wife, isn't that what happened? He says, the wife of his neighbor, he says, both the adulterer and the adulteress are to be what? And you tell me he wasn't a dog. He's dog enough to God said, I'll put you to death for that. Kind of got quiet. I'm riding some guilty people in it. See, anybody say, go to have mercy, and I've got quiet in here. Let me preach on. See, listen, I got you, brother. You say this, it's one thing to commit adultery, but it's another thing to get pregnant. See, listen, David might have went back to that house or had it to come again. Because he ain't nobody getting pregnant. You know, he might have went for seconds. Don't know if he did. Because nobody know. You know, he could have said, you know, he could have even, when she did get pregnant, you know what he could have did? He could have just threw her up under the bus. Well, I'm pregnant now. He said, so ain't my child. And then, because you know why? Because Dana wasn't invented, you know, it wasn't created yet. There was no DNA test. How am I know that? That's you. And guess what? It would have been her and Uriah the Hittite. Because he said, this is my wife, and how you get pregnant? David said, wasn't me. Like Shay, it wasn't me. Now how you gonna know? But you know, but remember what I said? That messengers went to get him. He's complicit. There are people who know about it. But see, here's the king. And he should have known better. He's a man after God's own heart. He is frightened now. He don't want to get caught. Their lives depended on it. And guess what? How far will you go to keep that a secret? And I'm asking you today, in the little holes of your mind that you lock, you the only one got that key, and your wife don't know your secrets. Your husband don't know your secrets. Your preacher don't know your secrets. But he knows. But let me ask you, how far will you go to keep that a secret? See, that's why some of us can't sleep at night. Because we got skeletons still in the corner that should have been swept clean a long time ago. We can't talk about it no more because we feel guilty every time it comes up. See, if you sweep clean your closet, you say, I know it wasn't me. How far will he go? A man after God's heart, how far will he go? So scheme number one, he now goes into scheme mode. I got to fix this thing, Brother D. I got to fix this or we're in some trouble. I'm the king. I should have known better. And he knew he was in trouble because he found out when Nathan, the prophet, started to talk to him, and he found out what somebody had done to this woman, he was going to put them to death. He didn't like it. He was upset about it. Hypocrite. And when Nathan said, you know what that man I'm talking about? Tell me about him. I'm going to kill him. Sure, as long as I'm standing here, I'm going to eat him. But that's you. Oops. You see, it wasn't none of this stuff about no Billie Jean talking about the kid ain't not my son. That's yours. That's yours. So he got to go into scheme mode here. He said, oh, I got to fix this. Let's Joab. Let's call Uriah the Hittite back home. And he gets home. He's taking a little sabbatical from the war, and he comes on in, and he's probably going like, what you want? I'm trying to fight the battle. What you want? Well, listen here. How things going on out there? It's going good. What you want? How's Joab and everybody? Yeah, it's going good. Well, listen. You've been fighting so good. Go home, take a little respite, go wash your feet, and you get you some rest, okay? Go home and stuff like that. And then he said, okay, that. And then he finds out in the morning, his soldiers tell him, he ain't go home. He didn't even leave the palace. He outside sleeping with the rest of the guards on a mat in front of the door. Oh, Lord. Things are getting pretty desperate now. How far will you go? Okay, let's just try this scheme number 2. Let's bring her back in, brings her back in again, and then the first time the Bible said it did, he's sending him home with a gift. He didn't tell us what it was. So now he calls him back. I got to get this thing to working. You know, come and have a little banquet with me. I want to show you my appreciation for what you're doing out there. You know, brings them in, give them food and all that. They just slapping him on the back talking and get the man drunk. So maybe he'll go home and maybe sleep with his wife, and then he could put those two things together. It was you who did it, because they didn't have Dana to see who baby it was. So guess what? He still doesn't go home. He's still out there sleeping in the cot, you know, and didn't go home. He's going like, what? David is really, you know, he's really don't know what to do. He's pacing back and forth. I got to fix this thing. I got to fix it, or else I'm being in some trouble. Now, all the while you scheming, have you not forgot about the Lord? The eyes of him who sees everything. There's nothing hidden from the sight of him who sees everything. So he's scheming. Now, this got to work. So, he, you know, look here. I'm going to send you on back. You got enough rest and everything. This man writes a letter to Joab, the captain of the host, sends it back with Uriah. He's actually giving him his own death sentence. Now that's cold. Seals it up, take it back. And he says to Joab, put Uriah out in the front where the fighting is the fiercest. And then withdraw from him, see, because he's a man of valor. He had a list of men who were his separate men of valor. And it says, and I know he ain't going to withdraw, he ain't going to back up. He's going to stay out there and fight. Put him where it's the most fierce, then withdraw from him, so he will be struck down and die. Now, David's a man after God on the heart, but he wrong. How you going to sit there and comprise a letter in a scheme to kill somebody? You're wrong for that. And you're going to get a letter, you're going to come back and say, well, he dead, and then the police catch up and say, well, I didn't do it. Oh, no, it's just like you did it. You're going to jail. You're going to prison. He's scheming to kill somebody. That's a man after God's own heart. So don't tell me, you as a Christian, that you won't do something like this. See, when you leave the heart of God and you take residence with Satan, you'll do almost anything. How far will you go to get what you want? Listen, so while Joab had the city under siege, they fighting, he put Uriah at the place where he knew the strongest defenders were. Put that man, he ain't no good either. Shouldn't do that to that man. And when the men of the city came out and fought against Joab, some of the men in David's army fell. And moreover, Uriah the Hittite died. And I told you I got emotional about Naboth. This really almost made me cry. And I hope somewhere in time that this man gets justice. He was a good man. He was a dutiful servant, fighting for his country. Had his own wife and go off the country fighting for the king, and this what happens to him? That's a shame. And I hope he gets some justice one day. How far will you go to get what you want? David was willing to have a man killed to cover up a sin that he should have been killed for himself. That's ridiculous. God was willing. Listen, and in closing, don't you know that God was willing to do whatever he had to do? Because we forget about this. God was willing to do whatever he had to do to ensure that the nation of Israel was not destroyed, so that he could bring his only son to be born on earth. That's why he said, these are my people. He didn't even talk about any other nation. He says, I got to protect this nation. When I told Abraham in Genesis 12, he said, you're going to be of a great nation. And you know what? That great nation he was talking about included the birth of Jesus Christ. And I have to protect the children of Israel till he get here. And I'm going to do everything that I got to do if I have to destroy an army or a nation. Now, I want to know, as a Christian, how far will you go to ensure that your call and election is sure? Now that the Son of God has come and did what he did. Listen, the Son of God went as far as he could to save you and me. So what are you going to do in return for him? I just need to know that. What are you willing to let go of? See, some of us still got stuff you got to let go. Let it go. See, a bone left in your closet is heavy. I don't know if it's a thigh bone, knee bone, whatever it is. It's a heavy burden. You got to let it go. Are you willing to give away everything that is an obstacle to your interest to heaven? Because listen, they could not win a war. They could not win a war because somebody had some goods in a tent covered up under a rug. And Joshua would say, we can't even win. We got the Ark of Covenant with us. We can't even win a war because God said, don't plunder the city. Don't take back nothing. Achan took back something home. And that stuff laid heavy on the whole army. Until it was found out, we got rid of the perpetrator, and they were able to win a war. Clean up your bones. Clean them up. Are you willing to sacrifice everything that keeps you from having a relationship with the Lord? That I leave with you today. I leave with you. You plotting about stuff you shouldn't be plotting about to get what you want. You need to cut that foolishness out. The Lord can give you everything that you should have. But like I started out with that first slide, you can't get everything you want. Those of you out there, and you still need to come to the Lord, but you still have a baggage full of stuff over your back, you got to get rid of that stuff. You got to get rid of stuff. Great thing I like about the Lord, he says, listen, I'm willing to save you. And guess what? I have a plan to do that, but you're going to have to follow this plan. There ain't no getting around this plan. You have to hear Romans 10 and 17. That builds faith when you hear the word. He says, and then you have to believe. And you have faith. You got to have faith that what you believe is true. Mark 16 and 16 says, if you believe and you're baptized, you're saved. But it also says, if you don't believe, well, then you're going to be damned. That's as simple as that. Luke 13, 3 and 5, this is a lot of problem for the Christians. Because you don't want to repent. You don't want to give up the bones in your closet. You're going to have to give them up. Repent. Change the way your life. Get rid of some stuff. All that stuff, I should say. Or else you're going to perish. Confess. Romans 10, 9 and 10. You made a confession when you became a member of the church. The Lord's church. Now how are we going to go back on that confession? And then he says you need to be baptized. Ain't no way getting around it. Not just Acts 2 and 38. But you can go on over to Acts chapter 8, Acts chapter 9, Acts chapter 10, and all up in there. Even Jesus starting out in Matthew chapter 3, getting baptized, he said, because it is the right thing to do to fulfill all righteousness. He said, but you know what? You can do all that, but you got to live a godly life. And then when it's all over, you're going to wake up with a godly life, and you're going to go on home to Christ when the appointed time is there. So if you need to get your life right and you've done all that thing, but you have sinned, you need to come and ask the Lord for forgiveness. The Lord will forgive you, as James 5 and 16 say, but you got to have that kind of heart that you're really sorrowful, and then the Lord will forgive you as we stand and sing a verse of our invitation song.